Today at my home garage, we'll be doing a valve cover gasket on a 2007 Toyota Camry 4-cylinder. Step 1. Remove the valve cover rubber plastic gasket and set it aside. You will now need to remove the harness for the ignition coil. Just unplug them and set them aside. Then you'll remove each ignition coil, 10mm bolts. Set the ignition coils in the same order that you remove them. Another bracket here, plastic bracket that holds the engine harness. Let's move that as well. So now I'm prepared to remove the bolts for the valve cover gasket. One, two, three. Back in there. There's another one. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now you get a little pry bar or a screwdriver, and you're going to pry up on that. It should come out pretty easily. Remove everything out of the way, best you can. This harness might get in your way. Just kind of work around it. Go straight up. All right. So this valve cover gasket has failed. We don't know if it's been replaced in the past, but the plastic is very hard. It's supposed to be very supple, but it's getting very, look, it broke. That's when you know your plastic's gone. So now I'm gonna clean up this valve cover gasket. Step 1, we're just gonna clean up the bolts that hold down the valve cover with some brake clean. Okay, now you're going to get your valve cover, remove the old gasket. You're going to remove the old gasket. See how it's broken? Shouldn't do that. Show you the new one after. And this is a one-piece gasket that also has the grommets, which would be where your spark plugs go, the tubes. These are called grommets, but it's all one piece. Well, it used to be one piece that came down the middle. So set your new one aside, your old one aside, throw it out, whatever you want to do. I'm just going to toss mine out. Although you should use your old one to compare, but I already know that it's good. Okay, so now you're going to take your brake clean, your soaked rag of brake clean, and you're going to clean off this entire surface. As you can see, because this is a cover that goes on the engine, they have to put some silicone in between here. So we have to take the old silicone off. We're going to scrape it off. Don't let it fall into the engine. Right there, here and here. Get yourself a razor blade or X-Acto knife, and you're going to get rid of that old silicone. Don't let it fall into the engine. If you want to grab your little brush and get rid of some of that. Here's your new valve cover gasket. We'll now install it. We'll do it right here. It only goes on one way. So I would line up these first. I use Honda Bond. It's just a high temp liquid gasket. You're just gonna get 2 dabs, and you'll see where the timing cover meets the engine. There's a seam, so you need to seal that seam up with this, and that's it. And it shouldn't leak. Grab your nuts and bolts. The short bolts go on the outside. Put them in by hand for now. You have about half an hour to an hour before that silicone actually dries. So take your time, no need to rush. The long ones go in the center. The nuts go on the studs. There's 1, 2. You can't use a ratchet if you like, very lightly. You are not tightening it. The long bolts on the valve cover gasket, on the valve cover, are 120 inch-pounds or 10 foot-pounds. So we'll torque those first. And now you want to torque the outside bolts and nuts, and they are 96 inch-pounds or 8 foot-pounds. is now torqued. Now you gotta wait for the Honda Bond or the liquid gasket to dry, and while we do that, we'll reconnect all the pieces. The torque on the ignition coils is 80 inch-pounds. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is not very important, but while we have it here, we might as well use it. The torque on these, double check everything again, make sure everything's tight, make sure all your hoses are back on, make sure your clips are in, put your cover back on. And there you have it, a valve cover gasket on a 2007 Toyota Camry 4-cylinder. Have a nice day. Stay tuned for more videos on this vehicle.